When you think about M's, one thing should come to mind: mid. In this video, we're going to talk about M's and her basics, then dive a little further, talking about her gameplay and how it revolves around midness, if that's even a word. Finally, we'll talk about more mid, with this time being about her standing in the meta and much more. If you want a chance to win Eldritch Professor Barley, or simply just have fun and a place to talk, join our Discord server. Link will be in the description. Also, make sure to subscribe to keep up with the PowerPoints. As always, let's start out with the basics. Hems has an above average health of 7200 with a normal movement speed. Her main attack is quite interesting actually, as she fires out hairspray that deals damage based on how far the enemies are from her. It has 3 different portions of attacks. Her main attack lingers, so if you stay at a closer range to M's, you'll get 1 tick. If you stay at a mid range, you'll get 3 ticks. And if you stay at a long range, you'll get 2 ticks. And of course, most importantly, her range is 6.67 tiles. Now, her super. M's super creates a cloud around herself for 5.67 tiles, which deals 480 damage per second, while also slowing down all enemies inside the range. The super lasts 5 seconds and cannot be stopped by any form of crowd control, such as knockback or stun. Now that the basics are out of the way, let's talk a bit more in depth about M's. First off, her main attack. This attack, as you can tell, is quite interesting. The main attack is fully dependent on one thing and one thing only: your range from your opponent. The amount of damage it deals and the ticks you take are all based on that one thing. This is why range is such a huge factor for M's. Because of this, you have to be very tactical when it comes to your own movement when playing M's. If you couldn't tell already, M's main attack is a ripoff of Goldilocks and the 3 Bears. Too far and you'll deal okay damage. Too close and you'll deal trash damage. But get it right in the middle and you'll do great damage. This is why it's often best to move back when you're close to an enemy while shooting, so you can create more distance, and to move forward when you're far away from an enemy, in order to maximize damage. And this leads to my next point. M's is all about control. I'm sure you probably knew that with her being a controller and all, but this has more to do about speed. When it comes to speed, M's is best when she can control the tempo of a matchup. What does this mean? Well, this ties in with the last slide. It's integral for her to be faster than her enemies, so she can have control. Meaning, moving forward while attacking or moving back while attacking will actually change the amount of damage she deals. This is why M's is so good against slower brawlers, as she basically forces them to take all the ticks like a good... never mind, I'm not finishing that sentence. But yeah, because she can control the tempo, she's good against these brawlers. However, things get a lot different when we talk about brawlers who are actually faster than her. Suddenly, she loses the very important element of control. Now, the whole matchup is turned on its head, and M's loses her advantage of speed. Because of this, most of the time, the enemies now can control whether they stay in the poison clouds too long, and more often than not, they'll simply just rush you down. As an M's, you don't have much close range defense other than the super, and her gadget, which I'll talk about later. So, it's imperative to be very cautious when facing off against faster brawlers due to the threat they pose. But speaking of her super, let's talk a little bit more about it. This is what she uses to increase her element of control, by allowing her to artificially slow down enemies. This makes enemies who are already slow even more susceptible, but more importantly, it allows for her to be on a level playing field with faster brawlers, which can be used for offense or defense. On offense, she now has control due to them being slow, so she can easily rack up a lot of damage. On defense, she can force aggressive enemies back and table the turns on them. That isn't all though, as her super is pretty good for assassination as well, dealing sneakily solid damage. However, this becomes good when you're trying to kill enemies behind walls. Furthermore, it's good when dealing with a lot of people, as EMS is uniquely suited to crowd destruction, which is a step above crowd control. I know I've talked about her general weaknesses and strengths, but let's dive in a little deeper into her weaknesses. Brawlers with high mobility and fast movement speed are, as you can guess, quite good against EMS. And which guys fit into this category? Aggro brawlers, and more specifically, assassins. These guys make EM's life very difficult, and are another big reason for this countering is, of course, her slow reload speed, which makes burst damage literally impossible for her, so you have to spend your attacks wisely, especially against assassins. However, things get interesting against tanks. Tanks operate best at close range, sure, but often they don't have the same super fast movement as assassins. But more importantly, they don't have a lot of mobility if they don't have their super. So, you get a situation where tanks both counter and get countered by EMS. If the tank doesn't have a super, EMS can just farm damage and supers off them. But the moment someone like El Primo gets a super, EMS will meet up with 1629, Love is Rage 3, Barter 16, Forever Young, and you get the point, if you get the reference. Now, let's talk about her current place in the meta. If I had one word to describe it, it would 100% be the word mid, as you could tell by now. EMS is one of those brawlers whose meta placement relies heavily on how meta its counters and countered are. And in this meta, it's no different. As you all know, we are gaining an increasingly aggro meta, with assassins and tanks nowadays being in the forefront. So, what does this mean for EMS? As I said earlier, it's complicated for her when it comes to tanks, so it's neither bad nor good. However, the advent of hypercharges and their speed boosts, and of course, assassins in general, does not bode well for EMS' meta placement, leading her to a mid C-tier brawler. She isn't horrible, nor is she completely countered, but she just isn't good. She's, well, mid. Now, let's go over her unlockables, starting with her gadgets. EMS' first gadget is Friend Zoner, which sees her push back enemies in a 2.67 tile radius, while also dealing 728 damage. This is quite a good gadget for her, as it allows her to both defend at a close range, but also re-establish control over the matchup, especially against slower brawlers. EMS' second gadget is Acid Spray, which allows her next attack to shoot through walls, but deals 10% less damage. This is cool for maps that have a lot of walls, and gets a bit of use there, as well as taking your opponents by surprise, but generally the other gadget is more useful. EMS' first star power is Bad Karma, which sees enemies that stay longer at EMS' attack take 25% more damage per tick. This simply just makes her strengths better, as she becomes even more powerful against slower brawlers, though she doesn't get much of a boost against faster brawlers, who usually don't stay long in her hairspray. EMS' second star power is Hype, which sees her recover 576 health per second anyone is in her super circle. This can be very good if a lot of people are in her super radius, but overall both star powers are still quite useful. Finally, EMS' Hypercharge. EMS' Hypercharge is Overhyped Haze, or in other words, Psy Music. This sees her super now include a boosted friend zoner all around her. This is a solid star power and combines both offensive and defensive capabilities for her. Unfortunately, it's the only thing keeping her even slightly relevant in the meta, so while it is good, it's not great. Overall, EMS is just mid. Her gameplay revolves around keeping enemies not too close, nor too far, or in other words, keeping them at a mid range. In fact, she's really bad at a short range, giving her a big weakness against aggro brawlers. And this leads her to being mid in the current aggro meta, proving that, well, Ems is just an all-around mid brawler. As always, thanks for watching. Watch this video, or this playlist, or join the Discord server.